And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're looking at a game from Alley Cat Games called Tungaru, which is in a made-up culture here in the South Pacific, where you are trying to score points by recruiting nomads to your team. And that's where I'm going to stop talking about the theme. I mean, it's there. You're going around, you're trading different resources, trying to convince these people to join your team so you can get lots of different victory points. It is a dice rolling and then using those dice to take action style game. Here's how it works. This is a two-sided board that has different islands on it, and each of these islands you're going to be placing different people on that island. The islands themselves are set on the board, but if you want even more randomness, you can take some tiles and place them on top of the island, so different things are going to show up on different spots on the board. You can have a kind of a randomized where they are. Each player is going to get their own player board. They have these monuments which are going to be blocking some of the spaces on that board. Each player also has some dice. They're going to be using 3 dice. You have a 4th dice for extra use. And you're going to have 5 leaders in the game, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In each round, one person is going to roll the dice here. So here I rolled a 4, 4, and a 5. And then each other player is going to take their dice and match those. And then you're going to take those dice and place them on wherever you have your boat on the board. So here I'd have my 4, 5, and 5 on my yellow boat. Players are then going to simultaneously pick one of the leaders from their hand and then going to reveal each of them. Now each leader will give you an extra thing that you can do immediately, except for the chief, and the chief's going to be picking who goes first in the future turn. If I pick the worker, for example, then I get to roll my 4th die and put it on the worker space right here. If I pick the beggar, then each of my neighbors have to give me a good of their choice, but they'll get 3 victory points for doing so. If I pick the fisher, I simply am going to get an extra fish and place it on the card. And if I pick the trader, I can take one island and use the trade action on that island. After that, players are going to take actions. There are a lot of actions that you can take. They're listed on your board here. Many of the actions are going to require you to put dice down, and it will tell you what kind of dice you need. So you can see here, for example, any die can be used for sailing. For harvesting, I need a die that's equal to something, and there's just various things. But the card that you play itself can have a die put on it. So for example, if I play the chief, I can put a 1 or a 4 here to take 2 fish, or a 6 to take a pearl. So each player, or each of the leaders that you have, will have various special abilities on them that you'll be able to put dice on, which is going to be one of the reasons that will make you pick a specific leader. Your boat also on the board, and by the way, one of your actions can be moving your boat. So you'll move a boat across the dotted lines. You can move your boat so far. There's rules about moving the boat. But your boat is connected to 2 islands, and you're going to be able to use dice on those islands. Sometimes you'll use that die to get a specific good. You'll be able to do trading on an island. So here you can see I can make this trading action here. And so there are various things that you'll be able to do based on the island you're connected to. Players can also spend 2 fish and put a die on an island and put a settler on that island. Players have settlers that you can put out. What a settler lets you do in the future is many of the actions allow you to simply lay your settler down to take an action on that island. Some settlers will let you trade. Some of the actions let you trade with a settler. Some actions let you do various things. It kind of gives you extra actions by putting these settlers out. And then you can also recruit. So recruit's a big deal because that's how you get these people here. So for example, to recruit this person into my village, I'm going to need a fish, a shell, and some coconuts. And I spend those and I'll be able to recruit them. When you recruit somebody, you'll see when I recruit this person, then this person will slide into that position, and then this one is replaced. So you can kind of see who's going to be showing up on islands in the future. Also, when you recruit someone, you're going to take a monument and put it on that island. You can only have one monument per island. Now, this has to do with your player board. As you recruit people, you're going to be placing them in stacks here, and you'll have the special abilities of the people on top. So when you take these monuments off, you have to decide where to take them off. Do you want to take this one off to give you more spots to keep resources? Do you want to take these off so you can recruit more people? Or do you want to take these off, which are just simply going to give you various resources? And then finally, you can also take an action with the leader that you've chosen. You'll notice each leader has basically a tap action. So for example, the trader, you can trade one of these for another one of these by just tapping the person. The fisherman lets you move for free by tapping the card. So players are going to keep taking these actions, placing dice, using people on the board, tapping their leader until everyone passes, and then you'll the card that you played, the leader that you played, is passed to the person on your left. So you might have 2 chiefs, for example, or 2 beggars, or whatever it might be. And then you'll start the next round. When the pile of nomad tiles is gone, that's going to trigger endgame scoring, and that's when you're going to get points, and the nomads are going to be giving you points. And so all the nomads you have, even the ones at the top or bottom, are going to score you points, and they all score points for different things. Like, for example, this one gives you 5 points for each person you have on the islands. 2 of the same goods is 4 victory points, and so on and so forth. There's lots of ways to get victory points. You can try to get victory points for nomads of the same type or diversify. That's up to you. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner. There's a lot of pieces in this game. The rule book itself, by the way, I love the art in this. Now, this is a made-up area based on cultures in the South Pacific, but I think the artwork is fantastic. The rule book is pretty clear, although the iconography is not. I don't think so. I look at this, and this is just super confusing. But it's a pretty game. You know, you have a splash of colors of the different players, although oddly enough these workers here are only colored on one side, which is not that big of a deal. It just means that somebody on the board doesn't get to see them based on the direction they are. But the dice are good quality. My only problem with the game is it's hard to remember what the symbols are when it comes to components. Now, there's a lot of really cool things about Tungaru. I really like the picking the leader. There's a lot of thought into that. You roll the dice, so you will pick a leader based on, hey, the dice that are rolled match the different actions on this leader card. Maybe. Or this is the special ability I want. Maybe. Or this is, whatever it might be. There's some thought that goes into that. And the idea that when you use a card, you pass it to the person on your left is a good one because it keeps the leaders moving around, and it means likely you can't use the same leader twice in a row, but you might if the person passes it to you. So that's kind of an interesting concept that I thought worked really well in this game. I thought the moving of ships from island to island was clunky. It's not so obvious where to move. I don't know, it just doesn't feel very good in this game. You're moving around. It almost feels like it was added to be added for adding's sake. And that, I think, is the problem with this game. This game is a fine game, but I would hesitate to call it a good game because they seemingly added in a ton of things, and I don't know that it all makes the game better. For example, the workers. You spend time putting workers around, then each turn you can use that worker to get something. Sure, but the way that it's explained and the way that it plays out feels clumsy. It doesn't feel like a natural progression. Then there's stuff all over the board to trade resources for resources, but there's not a real strong natural progression. Like, I'll take some fish and change those fish for coconut. No, the resources aren't very plentiful as it is. And so you're not taking these and trading these for these. You're basically saying, what can I get to get this nomad? And you might pick a nomad scoring strategy, and then none of those nomads show up, or they show up halfway across the board, and someone else has resources and they snap it up. So this game feels a bit reactive. I roll the dice, I pick a leader that best matches the rolls of those dice, I take the stuff near me. If that doesn't work, I'll move my ship to another spot where no one else is at. I will move monuments off my board in the most obvious way possible. It feels like you're always going to move off the one that lets you keep an extra resource and then move off the leaders, and then the free resources ones are last because they're the least beneficial. And so there's a lot of stuff going on in this game, but I don't know that the game level equals all that stuff going on. I'm not saying it's a bad time. In fact, I would imagine many people, some people watching this will say they really enjoy the game. And I found it to be okay. I found it to be a very hard teach. You know, this is a game, there's a lot going on, and explain it to people and the workers and the dice and the leaders. There's a lot coming at you, but I don't know that the depth matches all those mechanisms. The idea of using the leader and passing around, that's cool. I think that's great. The idea of spending a die to get a fish and then spending another die to trade that fish in for a pearl, then using those pearls to buy someone to get points, there's almost one too many steps in there, I feel, for me to really enjoy the game. I like the theming, I like the look, I like the many of the concepts in the game, and I don't dislike it when I play it. It's okay. But there's a lot of other games out there, and I think I prefer a somewhat more straightforward game when playing stuff. But interesting ideas for sure. I like to see what these designers come up with in the future. But that's what I think of Tungaru. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment? That's all right.